We will move on to agenda item 9, public hearing number 5, adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Yuba City, California, adding sections 2-9.04, 2-9.05, and 2-9.06 to Chapter 2, Title 9 of the Yuba City Municipal Code to establish a district-based system of elections for members of the City Council. Tonight, it will be presented by Shannon Chapin, our city attorney. And do we have our demographer here tonight?
It doesn't appear so. I'll carry the ball if you don't mind. I have some good news. After a half a year of working on this council, you have finally reached the last hearing required under the law. So hopefully tonight you'll be able to wrap this up. I know that the public has been involved in this process, and we've posted things on the website. We've sent out notices. We've done all the requirements that we'd be required to do. And this evening before you is the second reading of the ordinance. If approved by the council this evening, it will mean that the city will start to move to a transition from the at-large system of voting where you just can live anywhere and you're voted by the majority of everybody in the city, well, whoever wins the most votes, I should say, to the district system. And the district system means you represent a district, District 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and you live in that district and you're elected by that district if you're a council member from that district. So that is the transition that is being proposed this evening. That process is consistent with state law, the California Voting Rights Act, and the Fair Maps Act. And I'm available if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Shall we go ahead and open the public hearing then, sir? All right. The public hearing number 5, selection of district map and election sequence, adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Yuba City, California, adding sections 2-9.04, 2-9.05, and 2-9.06 to Chapter 2, Title 9 of the Yuba City Municipal Code to establish a district-based system of elections for members of the City Council is now open. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the council on this issue, please provide your statement via public comment. State your name and address for the record. And we do have a speaker's card. Mr. Buckland, you are up first, sir.
Name provided previously, so I'll just start into this. Thank you, Mayor. I've been aware of the California Voters' Rights Act since its inception in 2001. This is a serious matter requiring consideration absent incumbent intent. In the United States, voters choose those best reflecting the demographics of respected communities. Districting of a city promotes this agenda. The proposal on the table put forth by the Yuba City Council is biased. It was only considered by current council members with the intent of incumbency. They failed to research over 125 ordinances or policies to determine best practices to avoid perception and involvement of bias on the part of the currently elected officials. Allow me to contrast 3 recent convictions of this council published in the Appeal Democrat. Transparency, there's none. They claimed it was all transparent, but there wasn't a transparency issue. Gerrymandering, there was none. No shenanigans. Let me address transparency. No public participation was involved in drawing the lines. Gerrymandering. The lines of District 3 have weighted demographics and adjustments to include the residents of the current elected member. Shenanigans. This is obvious to all. Look at how the council has devised a scheme to allow an incumbent in District 2 to remain active for re-election, while another serving the same district is proposed to serve at large while voiding District 5 of elected representation. The proposed action places residents of District 5 at a disadvantage, whereby we lack representation of a qualified legally elected member representing the district. I hereby request the Yuba City Council adopt the following. Adjust the lines between Districts 3 and 4, and you've heard previously regarding that very same subject. Open elections for Districts 1, 3, and 5 in 2022. This provides current elected members to fill out their terms and currently open up elections in those other districts. That's all I have for you. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from the public? Do we have any other comments from the public? Any online?
No public comment.
Mr. Chaffin, do you have anything to add based upon the public comment that just walked out the back door?
Would you like me to respond to some of his questions?
That would be appropriate, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. First, there was a concern of bias that apparently that the map that's being selected this evening would only result in the re-election of the sitting council members. As you may recall, the city council did request what a map would look like if everybody did not have conflicting jurisdictions, and they looked at that and decided not to use that. And the reason for that is it did not meet the requirements and the standards that the city council and the state law had set for districting. Instead, they selected what's called the green map that is attached to your ordinance. And as you may recall, in the green map, Councilmember Harris and Councilmember Boomgarden, if they both decided to run for the district election, would be running against one another. That is the reason why there's no one in District 5. So that brings back to the question of, well, who's going to be representing District 5? And I think it comes back to the bigger issue of understanding the difference between being elected at large and being elected by district. Under the at-large system, you're elected by everyone in the city, and you can live anywhere in the city. Theoretically, all 5 council members could live next door to each other. So when it comes time to transition to a district-based map, there's going to have to be divisions consistent with the law. Those include communities of interest, natural barriers, and other sorts of divisions that are in your staff report. It would be incredibly awkward to try to draw a map where the 5 of you living next door to each other represented 5 different districts. That would be a clear evidence of gerrymandering. However, to ensure that we didn't have it in this particular time, we actually hired the city an independent professional demographer to assess the requirements of the California Voting Rights Act, the requirements of the Fair Map Act, to take the latest census data, to incorporate that data, and to ensure that each one of the maps that were presented to the City Council for consideration met those requirements, including a balanced population, so representation per district member would be basically equal, and location. Now, it just so happens that the at-large members can live wherever they want to live. As you know, you're not required to live in the district. So with regards to District 5, it's not that they do not have a representative. Right now, District 5, or what would be District 5, have 5 representatives. They're sitting right there, and they've all been elected by the people. As you transition into a district system, the first set of sequencing, as we call it, is or timing, that comes up would mean that 3 of you would be, well, not 3, but 3 districts would come up for election. And what that does is it means that there's still 2 people available to represent District 5 and who have been elected by people in District 5. So that hopefully has addressed the gerrymandering issue and the reason why there's no District 5, and maybe the misunderstanding that the council was attempting to draft a map where they would re-elect themselves because the council specifically rejected that map. I think the last item was gerrymandering, and I'm sure that the council is aware of what that means, and probably anybody who had to go through the civics class, I think mine was in 6th grade where I learned about gerrymandering, and that is where you draw the lines to try to give yourself or give a particular council member a particular advantage. And in this particular case, the council selected an independent demographer to make sure that that would not happen and to come up with independent recommendations as to what would be appropriate for district boundaries. Now, finally, with regards to transparency, I can't speak as to what people would consider transparent or not transparent. I can say that we've been engaged in this process for over 6 months. I can say that all requirements of the California Voting Rights Act with regards to public notice and hearings have been met. I can say that we have had 5 hearings on this matter and an opportunity for the public to submit maps. I can say that the city has engaged in extensive efforts and provide what's called District R mapping tools for the community that are actually used by professional demographers, along with training in order to enable people to submit maps if they desired or if they thought that the maps that were being submitted were not sufficient. There was at least 5 different opportunities to provide public comment as to what the nature of those maps would look like. So whether or not we have met transparency requirements, that's up to the individual to decide. But from a legal perspective, we have met all the requirements of the California Voting Rights Act. And I hope that's answered your question.
Thank you. Under the public hearing, is there any other comments online?
No public comment.
No further comments from the public? Okay, then with that, I will close the public hearing and bring this back to the council. Do you have any questions or action from the council?
How about comments?
Comments as well.
Well, please, through the mayor. As the speaker referenced transparency, shenanigans, and gerrymandering, which I think were quotes from my comments from local media. First and foremost, thank you, Mr. Chaffin, for very well explaining exactly the process. As it relates to transparency, you did an excellent job of talking about this being the 5th public hearing. And I would also add that we're not the only ones doing districting right now. So anybody in the community that didn't know that this was going on, I would have to question on where they've been. Okay, they either didn't know, which I can't comment on, or they chose not to get engaged until here at the 5th public hearing. And it's appropriate for people to speak at the public hearing, and I encourage them to do so. So it wasn't inappropriate or wrong to hear those comments. It's just a little late in the game at this point as far as I'm concerned. I think we have been extremely transparent. I think that we entered into this process knowing that this would be potentially something that would be an issue, and we haven't really heard of that. We've had a couple public comments at public hearing number 4. And a comment tonight. So I have to feel as an elected representative that we have been open to the public and that we have been transparent. As far as shenanigans and gerrymandering, I want to speak to those, especially myself and Councilman Harris. If there were shenanigans going on or gerrymandering going on, do you think for a moment that we would sit back and pit each other against each other? I mean, that's just ludicrous as far as I'm concerned. That's beyond belief to me. We went above and beyond. No, I want to retract that. We did what was right and did what the demographer told us was a defensible legal position in regards to establishing these districts per the legal representations that are laid out for us by the state of California. So to say that there was gerrymandering or shenanigans, I think is a patently false statement. It has nothing to do with that. And if it did, as you mentioned, our city attorney, we would have probably tried to go with the no-pair map and subjected this city to a legal challenge, which we opted not to do because that's not the right thing to do. Again, Mr. Mayor, I would tell you that I think this council has been diligent in its review of this. I think it has been a long process with neutral third-party demographers, our legal opinion, and our own ethics, if you will, in regards to how we've proceeded with this. And for someone to call that into question, I would just say politely that I call that bull. Thank you.
Through the mayor.
Yes,
comment. I just want to add that one thing that our city has done just in the last year or more, actually, probably through 2 or 3 years, but let me back up before you say that. I just want to, well said, completely well said, 100% on what you just mentioned. I support that. The transparency part of which is interesting, that community is saying, not been informed, and our city has intentionally translated documents into 3 languages. And we have made efforts to, I personally reached out to people and mentioned that we were doing this. Love to hear from you. Come to the council meeting. It would be great. So I trust that I know my ethics, I know my integrity, and I believe that representing this community as a part of the work that any person, and to say that former Councilmember Buckland shows up to question our integrity in this process is really disturbing, and just to say it in the most simplest way, it's really sad that a person who knows the system, who represented us prior to us, and comes in and just drops a bomb in the aspect of conspiracy, and none of it is true. And so I just have to say that I'm insulted, but I will show you, as the rest of us will show you, because we don't just talk, we do it. Thank you.
Any comments?
I wasn't going to dignify that display with a response. However, I concur with both of my colleagues who have spoken so far in that everything was completely untrue. We've complied with every aspect of the law. We've had five public hearings for people to come to comment. We've had an opportunity for the public to create their own map. We come up with something that was most legally sound to not expose this city to any type of litigation, which created an awkward moment. It's going to create an awkward situation for Councilmember Baumgartner and I. And we did that because it's the right thing to do. You do the right thing even when it hurts, because it's the right thing to do. And I stand by our decision. I stand by the demographer. I stand by the recommendation of our city attorney. I stand by the vote that we all as a council set forth. That is the process. And I agree, Grace. It's sad to see someone who used to sit right up here come in and make accusations which are false, and then walk out the door without even giving an opportunity to listen to an explanation. So it's clear what the intent really was, and it's sad. But we are here. We've made our decision. I think it's the best decision for the city, based on what we've been faced with in order to make that decision. And I am comfortable with it, and I'm proud to be here with all of you. Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor, do you have any comments?
Yes, through the mayor. When we started down this road almost a year ago, we knew it was going to be a long process, and we knew we had to get it right. Not only because of the legal implications, just because it's 10 years until we have to do this again. So we got to get it right. We got to make sure it's done legally. We got to make sure the community is involved. The accusation of transparency just doesn't hold water, because it's been on it's been on the city's website the whole time, beginning with the map that we rejected because it wasn't defendable. And so the maps were there, the tool was there, and if you get the Appeal Democrat, it was an Appeal Democrat several times, and to Council Person Espindola's point, in different languages. So the effort was there, the transparency is there, and we've got a workable map, and I stand behind it.
Well said.
Thank you. Not much more to add to what's already been said. I'll go back to Councilmember Harris's remarks, which I pointed out. To come before any governing body, basically try to mic drop, and not even to stick around to get the answers that you pose the questions for, speaks volumes, and it brings in the question of the motives and character of the person standing at the podium. So it is a sad day that occurred. That is, again, not what these chambers are accustomed to, with professionalism and decorum. I know that ethics, character, professionalism, transparency, doing what's right for this city is at the core of this council, and that's what's made this council really special for the past 3 years. putting other people first. So with that, I will bring it back for action to the council.
Through the mayor,
Yes, sir.
like to move that we adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Yuba City, adding sections 2-9.04, 2-9.05, and 2-9.06 to Chapter 2, Title 9 of the Yuba City Municipal Code to establish a district-based system of elections for members of the City Council by title only and waive the second reading.
Second.
Mayor? Just a point of clarification, that was the City Council of the City of Yuba City, California, was that correct, Councilmember Boomgarden?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in California, just wanted to make sure that was in the title.
Okay. And I have a second by Councilwoman Espandola. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries.